welcome back. Today I'm going to be making a Paperie Ink Halloween card with a fun action wobble. I've never used one of these before. I was so excited. So I'm going to be using the October 31st stamp set, which is brand new out this year. And I'm also bringing in the My Boo stamp set, which is from last year, I believe, or the year before. I love these sets. I'm also going to be using the mini action wobblers from This Calls for Confetti, as well as the watercolor rectangle stencil from My Favorite Things. So I used to be on the design team for Paperie Ink, and they made some changes to how everything was kind of structured. And so I'm not anymore, but I still absolutely love their products. I love them as a company. They've always been so kind to me. And so I bought this new stamp set on my own just to feature and share with you guys because I think these are just so stinking cute. This little vampire pig won me over right away. So I have a regular A2 sized black card base or panel that we're going to be using as our base. And then I have a piece of white cardstock heavyweight that I trimmed down to, I think it's 5 by 3 3/4, but I'll double check that. You saw it get trimmed. But I taped my rectangle stencil, my watercolor stencil into place and from the back. And now I am stamping in my images. So I started out with the big pirate bear, this very cute spooky ghost, and the little tombstone, and I also stamped all three of those onto a full stick post-it note because I'm going to be fussy cutting and making my own masks for these. So here I am fussy cutting them out, and then I'm going to get those added onto my cardstock so that we can start layering everything up. I am going to pop up the little pig on the action wobble, so it's not really a one layer scene because of that, but you could do this like that and just add the piggy in. You would stamp him first and then everything else. I also wanted to use the tombstones from the My Boo as kind of the anchor point for my horizon line. So I am going to stamp those tombstones out onto two full stick post-it notes first, just because one wasn't quite wide enough to go all the way across this rectangle. And I'll just cut right at the base of those across and get that relined up into position. And that way I can use these to kind of mark my sky versus my grass. And then I will stamp the tombstones back over all of that when we're done. I'm going to leave this right where it is on the door of my Misty, which is the lovely thing about having a Misty, is that I can leave my stamps right there on the door so that when the time comes, I know it will be lined up and I can just stamp them right into place and kind of cover up that seam a little bit. So I'm going in with Distress Oxides to start my night sky, and I'm using Uncharted Mariner and Black Soot for the sky. These are kind of my go-to combination, and I am trying to leave a little bit of a halo around the ghost to just kind of give him a little bit of a glow. I thought that would be really cute. Nothing too crazy, just kind of not adding a ton of ink right around him so that he gives off that little bit of a halo. And once I have my blue laid down, I will go back in with that Black Soot and just kind of add that to deepen up all of the edges. I just like the oxides for these kind of night skies because I feel like I just get a lot smoother blend with them. But if you have other dye inks or whatever you want, you can't really go wrong with a Halloween sky. So I'm also taking some Dr. P.H. Martin's on a fan brush with a tiny extra drop of water in there and splattering that to create my stars. And if you have been following my Halloween series a couple weeks ago, you might remember that I added those stars and then ink blended something else without letting them dry, and I ended up smearing and creating what kind of looked like a comet but basically just wasn't correct. So this time I set that aside to dry first and colored in my little pig. while we wait, and then we'll jump back over once those are dry. They do not take long to dry. The Dr. P.H. Martin just dries within a couple minutes. So we will color in our little pig. I have him stamped out onto, I think I just did the same heavyweight cardstock, honestly, because I wanted him and the other, the bear and the ghost and everybody to kind of still look cohesive. So instead of using Copic paper, I stuck with the heavyweight 110 pound cardstock that I had already been using. And it doesn't blend as smoothly as my Copic paper. Like, I do notice a difference, but it's not enough for me to not use it, if that makes sense. Like, in an ideal world, I will still grab my Copic Express It paper, but for something like this where I really want everything to match, it's still worth it to just use this. So yeah, I shaded in my little pig to just be a normal kind of piggy pink. I really love this pink combination. I'll have all of my Copic colors listed in the description below for you as always, and then my caps are always on the screen as well, so that you can see exactly what I used and in what order. Then I shaded in his little bow tie and his vampire wings with his bat wings with some cool gray markers. Again, he's so stinking cute. He's just trying so hard to be scary. And then I gave him a little pumpkin trick-or-treat pail. So now my white dots, my stars have dried, and I'm gonna add the top part of my masks back into place, and I'm just using the bigger part that we had on the bottom, like shifting that up just to make sure that there's no way I can possibly get colors that I don't want on the ground or on the sky. The last thing I want right now is to get green on my sky somehow, so I figured I would just cover it up in case. I went in with a little bit of ground espresso right along the horizon and right at the very bottom. In the end, you probably don't notice it a ton, but I still think it's nice to kind of just bring in some more of those earthy colors. It doesn't always just have to be green. And then I used, I think that's Rustic Wilderness, I'm pretty sure, and Twisted Citron for my grassy area. Because oxides layer one on top of the other, and they're not completely see-through, I did go in a little too heavy, I think, with the citron, so then I added a little bit more of that Rustic Wilderness, and it came out absolutely perfect. So now I am stamping with the black soot onto the tombstones again. I stamped them down a couple times, and then it was time to remove my my stencil. We have this beautiful, really fun, kind of rough watercolor edge. So I removed my masks, and I think I overdid it with the black soot on those tombstones. I think I went in like 3 or 4 times to stamp that, and it had started to leak through your mask. So if you are using Post-it note, please just be very careful. Also, in hindsight, I wish I hadn't stamped the sentiment like I am right now until my rest of my images were colored, because I don't know about you, but I color with my hand flat on my surface, on my writing surface. And so obviously now looking back, I'm gonna get smudges. Like, this is gonna smear. Some of the ink's gonna stick to my hand, and I'm gonna move my hand, and it's gonna like re-stamp. So I've made it work in the end. I think it turns out okay. But if you were gonna recreate this, I would highly suggest coloring your images either first before you do any ink blending, or at least coloring them in before you add your sentiment. Because if I had moved green onto green, I don't think I would really care. So I used some, I think, cool gray markers or neutral gray markers for my tombstone and just kept that really simple. For my ghost, I had a lot of fun combining a really, really pale G, I think 40 marker with my BV markers, and they just give this really fun, like, kind of glow in the dark color. I love it. Where that way he has some shading so he doesn't look like forgotten and plain white, but it still keeps him definitely creating that really fun glow in the nighttime sky. I gave the little bear a matching pumpkin trick-or-treat pail like the pig, And it's just so funny to me that like this giant bear is scared of the ghost and the pig is just like living his best life dancing. So I wanted him to be full on pirate. And so obviously he needed a red and black striped shirt, because in my head that's what pirates wear. I shaded in the eyes on the 2 little pumpkin trick-or-treat pails. And then I went in, I did his eye patch and the black stripes first. Then I'm going in with my red markers to shade in the red stripes. And we're going to end up coloring him in kind of to just be like a brown bear. I didn't want anything super light or super dark because the nighttime sky was so dark. And then our ghost kind of owns the super light colors. And so I wanted him to still stand out. I wanted the ghost to stand out against everything else. So we just kind of went middle of the ground for this guy. I really just had a lot of fun coloring in this whole scene. Paperie Ink images are just so like cutesy, and I think they have a really nice balance of detail and kind of like wider open spaces. I know some brands are like so detailed that I always feel the need that they have to have like the super detailed scene to balance them out. And some are so simple that I have a hard time creating a scene around them. I'm not sure if that is a common like issue for anyone else. But for me, I kind of like to match my scene to the image that's going in it. And I just think that this company does a really good job of balancing out kind of those 2 things. So if I'm not in the mood to do like every single detail possible, but I still want to have like a fun, interesting scene, these images work really well for that. I hope that makes sense. So yeah, I just had a lot of fun. And then now is when I realized that I smudged. So I ended up going in with a Tombow sand eraser. If you don't have one of these, you have to get one. Even if you're not a chronic mistake maker like me. So I just kind of gently sanded away some of the spots where my ink had kind of doubled up. And then I went in with a gel pen and just really lightly added kind of like it's not a drop shadow, it's the opposite, right? It's like a one-sided highlight to all of my letters, and it really helped to kind of clean them up a little bit. And I really don't think that the smear is very noticeable when everything's all done. You'll see it all at the end. So I fussy cut out my little pigula, my little pig Dracula, pig pyre, I don't know, vampig, none of those sound right. And I used a water-based black marker with the side of it to outline him so that none of that white cardstock on the edges kind of peeks out. And I'm going to just add some tape runner to the back of my ink blended panel and get this added onto my black base panel. And then I am going to pop up my pig, and these little mini action wobblers are so simple and so cute. And I couldn't stop messing with this. It's so much fun. So I just stuck the action wobbler to my pig. Then I stuck the whole thing to my card. I went in to add a little bit of white highlights here and there. And you can see how he's kind of just a little bit popped up. But when you give him a little tap, he just kind of wobbles and jiggles around. He's just living his best life. Oh, I love it so much. So I hope you enjoyed seeing this whole process come together. You guys know I appreciate you so much. I will be back with 2 more Halloween videos this weekend, so make sure that you keep an eye out. But otherwise, I am just so grateful, and I will see you back here very soon. Have a great day, and as always, happy crafting.